All right, we're good to go. Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for tuning in. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kirstynn Joseph, and I am collaborating with Untamed Science to bring you interesting and exciting topics in both biology and ecology. Today, I am super excited because we are talking about cave biology, which is something I'm not too familiar with and also super interested in. So, with me here today is Francisco Romero, who is a biologist in Ecuador. So, he did his undergraduate thesis on caves in the Ecuadorian Amazon, and he's a huge cave ecology enthusiast. He also was part of the first biological expedition to Los Tallos Caves, which you can take a look down in the description of the video. There's an article on cave biology and there's a video on that. So if it's something that you're interested in, take a look at that. He's also a good friend of mine, so I asked him to come along here today and talk to us a little bit about caves. So Francisco, can you start by introducing yourself and also tell us what first got you interested in cave biology and why you're so into it now?
Okay, first of all, thank you, Kirstyn, for this invitation. I am really excited for being here. And as you say, we are really good friends. So, okay, so let's start. Um, in first place, I got interested in caves because everything starting with my teacher, my entomology teacher, Alvaro Barragan. He told me that he recommended me for become part of a cave team who was going to explore the caves of the Napo province. So the main art of our task was to discover the biodiversity that was hidden there, and also to evaluate if the tourism that has been practiced there since 1970s was detrimental for the cave fauna that lives there. So that was my first approach. And then I started, we just came when we started to making our field trips since 2016, and then we finished in 2017. So it was mostly a year of expedition. And then, as in anything that is exciting and nobody has done before, it really catches my attention. So it was very easy for me to get involved and interested in that. So I started to, I was supposed to be in charge only of the invertebrate parts of the case, but I started to get even more and more interested. And then I wanted to study the fishes that live there, and also the fossils that I was starting to find there. So everything was really exciting because I was bringing fossils to the paleontology team of the Polytechnic University, and then I started to talk with the fish expert of Ecuador, and everything was really really new. That was what everybody was telling me. So I was everything like I had a lot of it's not anxious, but I was really excited with every tip that I was going to have. So in the end of this, I just used the invertebrates for my undergraduate thesis. That is what I am why I am here right now. And yeah, but there are some publications that are coming up soon. And then during that time, it also came the first scientific expedition to Los Tallos caves. So that was another thing that was really exciting for me, because that was in first place a really huge cave. So I was really excited for going there. And it was also, the Los Tallos caves is a well-known caves around the world, and there is a lot of legends about there. I think that everybody knows the book, the Gold of the Gods, and a lot of history that about it is extension that the people say there are some people who say that it goes to the center of the earth, that their
Okay.
lives.
There's a lot of different folklore around these caves. So anybody maybe that's not familiar, take a little Google, see what the caves are about, and we can, unfortunately, we don't have time to get into biology and culture today, but maybe that's something we can look at another day. But that's really, really interesting for sure. So
Yeah.
for anybody who hasn't heard about that, and also too, Napo province is towards the Amazon of the Ecuador, so of Ecuador, sorry.
Yeah.
So you're getting into these really lush areas and with lots of biodiversity as well. So then you get into the caves and it's just a different type of biodiversity. But as you're saying, something that's really undiscovered, right? And underappreciated maybe.
Yeah. Nobody, yeah, there is just a few people who likes to go inside of a hole. So,
right.
Yes.
There's a few people that like to bury themselves in the ground. Yeah, that's interesting.
Basically.
So actually leading into that point, can you tell us a little bit about like what it's like studying biology in a cave, how it might maybe be different from your different field trips that weren't in a cave, what's good, what's not so good about it?
Okay, yeah. So what makes it different in first place is that caves are a really hardish environment. They don't have a lot of food supplies because they don't have a autotroph. Well, it doesn't have a primary production. Okay,
Right.
So there are very few animals that can live there, and when you go in a cave, you usually find that there is a lot of soil, and no, not even soil. There are mostly rocks. So there is nothing growing in the ground there. Well, sometimes it is like in the tropics. Yes, you can find it, but it is not too much. You just find little plants growing there, but they don't live for a long time. They die immediately because they don't have sunlight. So, and then, but in spite of that, you can find a lot of animals living there. So that is something really fascinating that I find in first place, which is a pattern that is not only observed in the tropics. It is also observed in the temperate zone, which has a huge number of species who are adapted, well, not adapted, who are exclusive for the cave environment. So that is why I call my attention in first place. And it is mainly the big difference.
Right, exactly. Okay, really interesting. That's awesome. So I have read in a little bit of my search before this and kind of heard that caves are especially sensitive to disturbances. And you also mentioned that you started studying caves to take a look at impacts of tourism. So can you tell us a little bit about like the sensitivity of caves, just to get an idea for that?
Yeah, okay. Well, in first place, that is like an argument. Well, it's not an argument, but it is a sentences that it is often used, but it is not. It has not been proved in an appropriate way. So for the fauna, digamos, for talking about the biodiversity. So in some places, but it can happen, but they are not so, it is not an ecosystem as fragile and it is tough because it depends if you affect the source of the nutrients for the cave fauna. Okay, so for example, in La Verna Chamber, which is a cave from France, their main source comes from the river. The river carries a lot of organic matter that it is deposited in the cave, and the trophic chain starts there, and it is and supports all the part of the chain. So they changed that. They use it for electricity, and it created an impact. So they made a management plan and then changed it, and everything is working okay again. For example, yeah. Another case is when you affect another source, which is bats, and specifically bats one, which is the poops of the bats. So when big colonies of bats live inside a cave, they make really big deposits, and that is the main source for the food chains of the cave fauna. So if you in some way change that or create an impact on the bat colony, for example, creating, I don't know, putting lights in order to make the caves more touristic, and that disturbs the bats and they leave, and that will decrease the quantity of guano which is being deposited in the caves. Another one can be like modifying the entrance or anything like that. Okay, so that is something that can create an impact.
Right. So maybe caves aren't necessarily more sensitive than another ecosystem, but if you take out the thing that is kind of the primary nutrients for that area, then of course it's going to be heavily impacted. And it's just different that in caves you're getting this primary nutrient input from outside. And it's not something that's from inside the cave itself. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And for example, also, well, in something reverse that can create an impact is a high input of resources inside of the cave. So for example, in a cave in Scandinavia, well, the cave's name is Gombasenka. In the Gombasenka caves, they discovered that the input of resources carried by the tourists, like things so little like the soil that you carry in your boots when you enter, it was creating a bigger income of nutrients. So the Collembola assemblage was starting to have more diverse, which at the first looked like something good, but it was not so good because it means that the species who are entering in the caves were from the surface. So the caves that were exclusive for the caves were starting to be like to be obligated to move to how to say, maybe to the downtown of the caves.
Right,
so
the far back, the deeper crevices where the other outside organisms can't survive at all.
Exactly.
Okay, excellent. So this is like kind of another example of invasive species, but it's only just from not huge region to here, but just from the surface down into a cave, causing these problems in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is my answer to that question.
Okay, that's super interesting. Thank you. Okay, so speaking of the animals that live in caves, whether it's that they're endemic and only live in caves or that they spend some time outside, but what are some of the main characteristics of cave organisms? Like mostly the ones that spend their entire life in the caves. What are some things that are really important for them?
Okay, so the animals that live, well, in first place, all the animals that are part of the cave fauna, which is called the subterranean fauna, they have interesting features to live inside of a cave. So, for example, bats have echolocation to be able to move and to orientate through the night, which is the main characteristic of cave, which is the absence of light. And for example, tarantulas and scorpions, they are not so dependent of their eyes. They depend more of their sensitive organs to feel the environment that is around them. But the ones that are most interesting are the troglobians or troglobites. With this one kind of classification of the cave members that live of the fauna. So they have interesting feature which makes them strange, and it is what calls everybody attention. So those are the troglomorphs, with their extreme characteristics that condemns them to live their whole lives inside of a cave. They can make it outside, and those characteristics can be recognized visually, some of them, and another not, because they are physiological characteristics.
Okay.
Is such like some of them are like the lack of pigments. That is why they have that white ghostly appearance. They also are they also have this lack of eyes, which is something that is really fascinating. and they have long appendages, which is like a trade-off to have another organ sense more developed in order to feel the environment and make it inside.
Right. So yeah, you see the trade-offs: lose your eyes, but then you have better feely fingers essentially, or longer parts to help you move around. Okay. What are some of the so those are really the physical characteristics that you can see. What are some of the physiological ones that maybe we can't see that you mentioned?
Yeah, okay. So the physical characteristic that I mentioned was the ones that I told you before: long appendages, despigmentation, lack of eyes, or even they can have teeny eyes. They just have like one spot, which just is useful for feel like changing in the light, like but they don't recognize any shapes. So so they are very rudimentalized. And physiologically, they have hormonal change in first place. They don't depend on the sunlight to regulate their lives, and they also have a circadian rhythm inside of the caves. That's something really interesting.
That's something you don't think about.
Yeah. When you spend you go in the evening and you spend the night there, you can see through the when the sun goes down and the moon appears, you can see how the animals start to get out in spite of that there is no light. So it's something really interesting. And
so you still kind of have nocturnal and diurnal animals despite the lack of sunlight that actually reaches it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I cut you off. And also
yeah, and also they also have they are slower. They have a low metabolism rhythm, and they can live more time without food, and also they have a longer lifetime, and they have less offspring. And yeah, I think that those are the main characters.
Right. Okay. That's super interesting. Yeah, it's a totally different world that they have to deal with down there. That's great. Excellent. So I think you came prepared to show us some of your favorite cave organisms, some of your cool finds here, right? So I'll let you pull these up here. Just let me make sure that I have it so that you are able to share. There we go. Yeah, and we'll take a look at some of these cool things that you've seen through your studies in the Ecuadorian caves in Napo province.
Yes. I am really excited about this. Okay, great. So you can see my screen.
Yes, I do. We see Biodiversity of the Napo province. Perfect.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so yeah, so I am going to start with the invertebrates because it is my graduate group, and with the arachnids. Okay, so one of the most interesting animals that I found was these pseudoscorpions. For the ones who don't know, well, pseudoscorpions are animals which they are similar to scorpions, they are closely related with them, but they don't have this poisoning tail.
Right.
And they are very, very little. That one that you can see there is so little that it can fit inside of an end of a dictionary, of a pocket dictionary. Okay.
Okay.
So this is from the family Chitonidae, and it is a Tyrannoptonis. And it is possibly that one of its ecological facts, well, one of the most interesting is that they are predators. They are really huge predators. They are like the tigers of the teeny world, and then feed mainly on collembolas, which were very common inside of the bats, one of the deposits of my case. And it is possibly a troglodytes, because as you can see in this photo, you can see that it doesn't have eyes, or maybe they are too little. It is something that we have to determine with an expert.
Okay, awesome. So they feed on springtails, like you said, tigers of the tiny world. That's awesome. Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So the other ones is Tichius de Manhei, maybe that's what it says CF. But well, these animals are really cool. Well, it is from the family Buttidae and the other Scorpiones, and well, that is just for the ones who wants to know. And one of these ecological facts that is more interesting is that they are predators even inside of the caves. They feed mainly on the crickets that they can trap there, and these guys are of medical importance. So this genera, Titius, it is well known to have a neurotoxic venom. So when I took them, I have to be really careful.
Right, of course.
Yeah. And finally, and this is one of my favorites, it is an amblypyge. So amblypyge, it is an ancient order of arachnids, which are really related with the spiders. But they are not poisonous, and they don't have this chelicera, which can cause you a lot of pain. But they have these pedipalps modified that are useful for them in order to trap their prey. So they are really cool and inoffensive. So, right. And well, the people of the caves, they usually played with them, they catch them, they made them walk. So their ecological facts, more interesting, is that, as I told you, they are living fossils and they are not dangerous for people.
Right. I've actually seen quite a few people have them as pets as well, or similar organisms that people like to keep them.
Yeah.
They're seem to be more like sociable insects with people, at least. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. I know that a lot of people in the North Hemisphere has them as pets, right. But here not. Mm-hmm. So following with the insects, the other ones that are really cool are the Mesetophilid. This is the name of a family of fly. Okay, the fly, the adult is not really interesting, but the larva is a predator. So it makes this huge, like, well, I don't know the name in English, but it is like a net. Okay, so the animals that the insects that are flying near to the ceiling, they get trapped in one of these ropes, right. And the insect, which is over here, that is a larva of a Mesetophilid, not the ones that I found, but they go there, they take them and then eat them alive. So
right, so it's very really cool. Similar to a spider web almost, except just like long threads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So to finish with the vertebrates, well, I have to talk about the fishes. Yeah. So the ones that I found was the most fascinating, it was Astrolepus folleter, which is the name of a cave Andean fish, which belong to the family Astrolepid and the order Siluriformes. And these guys are really cool because they are the only troglobian species that have been found there in these caves until now, and the only vertebrates. Troglobian. So it have those characteristics that I mentioned you earlier. So they have long appendage, like of mostly like of vines. They are very little, and they don't have pigment in their skin. Right. So they are predators. They feed mainly on macroinvertebrates, aquatic macroinvertebrates who live in the river that crosses the caves. And yeah, it is the only troglobian species. Okay. And that's it.
Great. Those are some great finds. I really am a big fan of the pseudoscorpions. I think that they're super interesting little animals. I remember the first time I saw one, and the fact that it seems like they had like double pincers. I was so blown away by what it was on the first time I'd seen one. So that's excellent. So you've seen a lot of awesome things in the caves. What has been your favorite cave experience and your least favorite cave experience, just to kind of wrap us up a little bit?
Oh no, okay. I will start with my less favorite experience, okay?
Okay.
So, which is really hard to find because I can't really say that I have a bad experience inside of the caves. Right. But maybe it was, let me think about it, okay?
No, that's okay.
I
surprised you with this one. It just came to mind.
yeah, it is really hard actually. Okay, so one of a bad experience that was not really bad. It was like not so good. Was one day when we didn't go inside of a cave. So we went there. We were in the entrance of the cave, but the leader of our team, she was kind of scared, and she told us she saw the entrance and it was dangerous because the floor was broken, the rock was broken. So you have to walk jumping and through big holes. So we saw the end, but they were like maybe, I don't know, like 2 or 3 meters of depth. So she told us, she said like, no, it is too dangerous for us. We are risking of life and we are not going inside of a cave. So I was like,
okay, so your worst cave experience has been not going into the cave.
yeah.
All right,
so.
a true cave biologist.
yeah. Maybe the other ones was the ones when I lost an animal. I catch it, but I miss it for some reason. I have to help somebody. I don't know, but I miss.
Okay.
Yeah. And okay, so the best experience, I think that every time that I go inside of a cave, it's the best experience. So, but maybe going inside of Los Tallos caves, when I went very deep inside of a place, when I reached that place where we reached, because we were in a group of 5 persons only, they told us that before that there was only 3 persons who have been there, and one of them was, well, I am not sure, but I think that Neil Armstrong has been there. So
okay.
Yeah, for if in case of somebody don't know, Neil Armstrong went inside of the Sky Cave.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I had no idea, but so you were some of the first people to arrive to that place. That was really special for you.
Yeah, and we took a photo inside of the same stalactite when he took a photo. So.
Okay, that's super exciting. That's awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much. I definitely learned a little bit more about caves. We saw some super interesting creatures. So want to thank you for sharing all that awesome information with us, and wanted to thank anybody who's watching. You guys can go ahead and check out the video description. You can follow Francisco and I on Instagram. Feel free to send either of us any messages. We're pretty open to chat. Francisco speaks English and Spanish, and the same for me, a little less Spanish, but you guys can go ahead with that. Also, there's some links down to follow Ruben, who was the photographer in Los Tallos Caves. So he's a super neat guy to follow as well. And if you enjoyed the video, please do subscribe. I'm hoping to put out a lot more really soon. And thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.